My beloved child. Stop scrolling. Do not move past this moment as though it were ordinary, because something within you has already recognized that these words did not arrive by accident. Pause here. Breathe slowly. Let the noise around you become distant for just a moment, because what you are about to hear was meant to reach the part of you that has been carrying a silent weight no one else can see. I am Archangel Michael, and I have come close to you with a message of protection, awakening, and divine urgency. Do not misunderstand the urgency in my voice. I have not come to frighten you. I have come because you have been standing near the edge of a decision without realizing how important it is. You have called your hesitation patience. You have called your exhaustion strength. You have called your silence peace. But heaven has seen what has truly been happening inside your heart. You have been ignoring something. Not because you are careless. Not because you are weak. You have ignored it because acknowledging it would force you to admit that your life can no longer continue in the same direction. Deep within you, there is a truth that has been knocking again and again. It has visited you in the quiet hours. It has interrupted your thoughts when you were trying to focus. It has appeared in dreams you could not fully remember when you woke. It has whispered through sudden emotions that made no sense at the time. And each time, you pushed it away. You told yourself you would deal with it later. You promised yourself that when you felt stronger, clearer, more prepared, you would finally listen. But the moment kept returning because heaven was not demanding perfection from you. Heaven was asking for your attention. That is why you are here now. Something is waiting for you beyond the wall you have built around your expectations. Something has been prepared in a place your eyes cannot yet see. You have mistaken the delay for denial, but the delay was doing work you were never meant to witness. It was moving people. It was closing hidden doors. It was exposing intentions. It was strengthening the foundation beneath the blessing so that when it arrived, it would not collapse under the weight of your old fears. You thought nothing was changing. But everything has been changing. There have been conversations about you that you did not hear. There have been decisions made in rooms you never entered. There have been moments when your name appeared in the mind of someone who had almost forgotten how deeply your presence affected them. There have been shifts in circumstances that looked small from the outside but carried enormous meaning in the unseen realm. And now those separate movements are beginning to come together. Stay with me, because this is not only about what is coming toward you. It is about what is leaving you. For a long time, you have been surrounded by an energy of unfinished things. Unfinished conversations. Unanswered questions. Unspoken feelings. Plans that almost happened. Connections that almost became something beautiful. Opportunities that seemed to appear and then dissolve before you could understand them. It has made you doubt your discernment. It has made you wonder whether you were imagining the signs. It has made you question whether your prayers were truly being heard. But I tell you now, you were not forgotten. You were being separated from outcomes that looked attractive but could not hold the future meant for you. There was a door you once begged to open. You returned to it in your thoughts again and again, wondering what you had done wrong. You believed that if you had spoken differently, waited longer, tried harder, or hidden your pain more carefully, perhaps the door would have remained open. But that closed door was not punishment. It was protection disguised as disappointment. Behind that door was a pattern you had already survived in another form. The faces were different. The details were different. The promises sounded more convincing. Yet the ending would have carried the same emptiness. Heaven saw the path extending beyond your desire. Heaven saw what your longing could not see. And when you were too emotionally attached to walk away, divine mercy allowed the situation to remove itself from your hands. You cried because you believed you had lost something rare. In truth, you were being rescued from something familiar. That is the first revelation you must receive tonight. The pain that made you feel rejected was also the hand that redirected you. The silence that made you feel invisible also prevented you from giving your heart to someone or something that only valued you when you were convenient. The delay that made you question your worth was creating distance between you and an outcome that would have slowly reduced the light within you. You are not where you thought you would be. But you are also not where the enemy of your peace expected you to remain. There is a difference between being delayed and being defeated. You have not been defeated. You have been repositioned. There are battles you never had to fight because they were handled before they reached you. There are betrayals you never had to experience because certain connections were interrupted early. There are burdens that could have consumed years of your life, yet they were removed through events you once called unfair. Now you are beginning to understand why your spirit could not settle in certain places. You tried to convince yourself that everything was fine. You ignored the discomfort. You minimized the signs. You made excuses for behavior that wounded you because you wanted to believe the best. That compassion is one of your gifts, but without discernment, even a gift can become a doorway through which exhaustion enters. You have often seen people not as they were, but as they could become. You saw potential where there was no commitment. You saw hidden goodness where there was repeated avoidance. You heard apologies and imagined transformation. You noticed moments of tenderness and used them to explain away entire seasons of inconsistency. Heaven does not condemn you for loving deeply. But heaven is teaching you that love without truth becomes self-abandonment. Listen carefully now, because this is where the message becomes personal. There is a choice approaching you. It may not arrive as a dramatic announcement. It may come through a message, an invitation, an unexpected conversation, a change of plans, or a sudden opportunity to revisit something you believed was finished. At first, it may seem small. You may even feel tempted to respond automatically, using the same habits you used before. Do not. This time, pause. This time, observe what your spirit feels before your loneliness speaks. Notice whether peace enters with the opportunity or whether confusion immediately follows it. Notice whether the words are supported by action. Notice whether you feel respected or merely pursued. Notice whether you are being invited into something clear or being pulled again into uncertainty. The coming decision is not a test of whether you can love. It is a test of whether you have learned to protect the person you became through the pain. That person is valuable. You have survived nights that changed you. There were moments when you smiled in front of others and then felt your strength disappear the moment you were alone. There were mornings when you rose from bed not because you felt hopeful, but because responsibility gave you no other choice. You continued showing kindness even while your own heart needed comfort. You encouraged people who had no idea how much you were struggling. You carried questions that had no immediate answers, yet you kept moving. Heaven counted every unseen act of courage. The tears no one noticed were not wasted. The prayers you could barely finish were heard. The days you felt spiritually numb did not disqualify you. Even when you could not feel divine presence remained around you. You thought faith meant always feeling strong. But some of your greatest faith was revealed when you continued despite feeling nothing. There is a sound in the unseen realm now, a movement like distant thunder before rain reaches dry ground. It is not the sound of destruction. It is the sound of old resistance breaking. Something that has stood against your progress is losing its authority. A cycle that repeated itself across different seasons is reaching its final boundary. You have already noticed signs of this. Your tolerance has changed. What once kept you trapped now tires you. What once impressed you now feels empty. What once tempted you to chase now reveals itself as unworthy of your peace. You are no longer able to pretend that crumbs are a feast. You are no longer satisfied with words that have no structure beneath them. You are no longer willing to make yourself smaller so that someone else can avoid confronting their own insecurity. This is not bitterness. This is awakening. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming clear. And clarity is powerful because it closes doors that emotion alone kept reopening. There is someone who benefited from your confusion. Perhaps they are not evil. Perhaps they are simply unhealed. But they became comfortable knowing that no matter how distant they grew, you would remain emotionally available. They assumed your forgiveness had no boundary. They believed your silence meant acceptance. They mistook your patience for permission. But something has changed. Your energy is no longer reaching toward them in the same way. Even when you think of them, there is a new distance inside you. Part of your heart may still care, but another part has begun to remember its dignity. They can feel it. They may not understand it, but they can feel that the version of you who waited without limits is disappearing. This is why a sudden return, apology, explanation, or emotional confession may soon arrive. It may sound sincere. It may awaken memories. It may remind you of everything you once hoped would happen. But do not confuse their fear of losing access with the ability to honor your heart. This is the second revelation. Not every return is restoration. Sometimes people return because your absence finally forced them to experience the space your love once filled. Sometimes they miss the comfort you provided, not the responsibility required to love you well. Sometimes they regret losing you, but regret alone does not create maturity. You must watch what follows the words. Do they bring honesty without being pushed? Do they accept responsibility without blaming circumstances? Do they offer consistency instead of intensity? Do they respect your boundaries without acting wounded by them? Do they understand that trust cannot be demanded simply because emotion has returned? Heaven is not asking you to become suspicious of everyone. Heaven is teaching you to recognize the difference between a moment of emotion and a pattern of transformation. Something genuine may also be approaching you, and this is why your discernment matters. You must not reject the new because the old trained you to expect disappointment. You must not close your heart so tightly that even peace cannot enter. The lesson was never to stop loving. The lesson was to stop abandoning yourself in order to be chosen. A new chapter cannot be written with the same agreement you made with your pain. You once agreed to wait for people who would not give you clarity. You once agreed to explain yourself repeatedly to those committed to misunderstanding you. You once agreed to carry emotional responsibility for relationships that required two people. You once agreed to remain available while others decided what you meant to them. That agreement is ending. You are being called into relationships, opportunities, and environments where your presence is not treated as a question. Where your gifts are not merely used but valued. Where your honesty is not punished. Where your sensitivity is not mocked. Where your loyalty is not exploited. Where you do not have to compete with confusion for a place in someone's life. Can you believe such a place exists? Part of you wants to. Another part is afraid. You have learned how to survive uncertainty so well that certainty may initially feel unfamiliar. When someone communicates clearly, you may search for hidden motives. When an opportunity arrives without struggle, you may assume something must be wrong. When peace begins to settle, you may become restless because chaos taught your nervous system to remain alert. But you are not being led back into chaos. You are being trained to recognize peace without distrusting it. There will be a moment soon when something unfolds more easily than you expected. You may be tempted to question it simply because you did not have to beg, chase, prove, or suffer for it. Remember this message when that happens. Ease does not always mean deception. Sometimes ease is evidence of alignment. The doors heaven opens do not require you to destroy yourself in order to enter them. There may still be courage required. There may still be responsibility. There may still be growth. But there will also be grace. There will be an inner steadiness. There will be a sense that even though you do not understand every detail, you are not betraying yourself by moving forward. You have asked for a sign. But signs have already been surrounding you. The sudden desire to clean your space. The urge to release old belongings. The feeling that certain conversations no longer fit you. The unexpected memories rising so they can finally be processed. The changes in your sleep. The moments when you feel emotional without knowing why. The sense that something is ending even though nothing visible has changed. These are not random. Your inner world is making room before your outer world catches up. You are clearing emotional space for what you once said you wanted. And this process can feel lonely because the old has not fully disappeared while the new has not fully arrived. You are standing in the sacred middle, between identity and becoming. The person you were cannot return, but the person you are becoming still feels unfamiliar. Do not rush through this middle space. It is teaching you how to carry what is coming. You prayed for more, but more requires capacity. More love requires the ability to receive without suspicion. More responsibility requires stronger boundaries. More visibility requires deeper confidence. More abundance requires wisdom so you do not pour everything into the same empty places. The waiting season has been expanding your capacity. You thought you were being overlooked. You were being strengthened in private. There is a reason certain people did not recognize your value while you were still discovering it yourself. Had they celebrated you too early, you might have built your identity on their approval. Had every door opened immediately, you might never have learned which direction truly belonged to you. Had your prayers been answered in the exact form you requested, you might have settled for something smaller than what was being prepared. You are going to look back and realize that some unanswered prayers were acts of divine intelligence. You asked for a particular person. Heaven was preparing the kind of love you were truly asking for beneath the name. You asked for one opportunity. Heaven was preparing a path that would expand beyond a single door. You asked to be rescued from discomfort. Heaven was teaching you how to become unshakable within it. You asked for immediate change. Heaven began changing you first. That is why the next season will not simply look different. You will experience it differently because you are no longer the same person entering it. The old you might have overlooked warning signs in order to preserve hope. The emerging you understands that hope and wisdom can exist together. The old you might have silenced your needs to avoid conflict. The emerging you knows that healthy connection does not require self-erasure. The old you might have accepted uncertainty because being alone felt frightening. The emerging you understands that loneliness in peace is less destructive than companionship in confusion. You are not losing your softness. You are removing access from what treated your softness carelessly. Something significant happened recently within the heart of another person connected to your journey. They were confronted by a truth they could no longer avoid. Perhaps it came during a quiet night. Perhaps someone said something that exposed the situation. Perhaps they saw your absence reflected in an ordinary moment and suddenly understood what they had taken for granted. They have been thinking differently. A realization has begun unfolding inside them. But listen carefully, their realization is not automatically your instruction. You are not required to run back simply because someone finally understands what you understood long ago. You are not required to reopen a door simply because regret is knocking. Their awakening may be part of their journey, while your freedom may be part of yours. Yet there is more. Because this person's realization has set something else in motion. A truth that was hidden is moving toward exposure. Someone around them knows more than they have admitted. A conversation has occurred, or is about to occur, that changes the way your connection is viewed. Your name will be spoken. And when it is spoken, the response will not be what you expect. For months, perhaps longer, you believed the story surrounding you had been misunderstood. You sensed that certain people were judging you based on incomplete information. You felt the weight of assumptions you never had the chance to correct. You wondered whether someone had painted you as distant, difficult, overly emotional, or impossible to understand. But the truth has been revealing itself through your absence. People are beginning to compare what was said about you with what they have observed. They are noticing contradictions. They are remembering your kindness. They are questioning why someone who was described as the problem carried themselves with such restraint. You did not defend yourself loudly. And that silence is now becoming evidence. You believed that remaining quiet allowed false impressions to win. But over time, truth develops a voice of its own. Patterns speak. Character speaks. Consistency speaks. The person who constantly explains their innocence eventually exposes themselves through repetition, while the person who walks in integrity does not need to manipulate every room. Your name is being cleared in places you cannot see. That is the third revelation. The battle for your reputation was never yours to fight through desperation. There were moments when you wanted to explain everything. You wanted to show messages, repeat conversations, reveal what truly happened. You wanted someone to finally understand how much you endured before you walked away. But something restrained you. You thought it was fear. In part, it was divine protection. Had you exposed everything at the wrong time, you would have been pulled into endless arguments. Your truth would have been debated by people committed to misunderstanding it. Instead, time has been gathering evidence. Behavior has been revealing character. Those who doubted you are beginning to see what you saw. Do not celebrate anyone's downfall. This is not about revenge. It is about release. You do not need them to suffer in order for you to heal. You do not need everyone to apologize in order for your experience to be valid. You do not need public vindication to know what you, sir.